Hello and welcome to Pro Baseball World Tour here on the RTC Multimedia YouTube channel. Rick Crabb on the line with our correspondent in the Florida Spring Training Facility, Mr. Eric Marenbach. Eric, how was your weekend and how are you enjoying the baseballs this week, sir?
Buenas noches, mi amigo. Anyway, what's happening here? You know, it's great that the Dominicans decided to play Game 3 of their playoff series in the afternoon. Because this way, now that Australia kind of got their act together, I can go between the Dominican and Australia because, okay, their daytime is our nighttime.
Right.
And they're actually doing a doubleheader that's underway right now.
Yeah, that's true, and we'll definitely get into that. There's one thing I want to comment involving not the Australian Baseball League and us. And I want to apologize to our viewers for last week. Pretty much what I wanted to do last weekend, I wanted to air our last episode on New Year's Eve. And the reason I wanted to do this was, number one, I wanted to have a watch party with a delayed broadcast of the ABL, and I think that matchup was Perth versus Melbourne, if I'm not mistaken. Two things happened that week affecting our show. The ABL reached an agreement with the American Association to air their games in North America, and that particular day, those games were blocked out of the United States and Canada. For some reason, though, YouTube has lifted that ban, and just about any game that's televised, especially live streams on YouTube, can be seen now in the U.S., thankfully, and we're benefiting from that right now, as we were talking about off the air. We have a matchup between the Adeline Giants and the Brisbane Bandits, but we'll get into them a little later. But as a result, number one, our watch party was done. The other thing was, on our program, what I wanted to do was extend our live chat for 3 hours, and I wanted to play a marathon of AC/DC just to pay tribute to Australian baseball, and just have a whole Australian motif and have fun with it. Well, YouTube, of course, frowns on using copyrighted music, and I thought I would be able to get away with playing it just for like one day, and then do what I wound up ultimately doing anyway, is re-edit the episode without the music and just have the baseball on it so we can get monetized and get sponsors and all that. Happy you know what. Well, YouTube decided, no, you know what? You have too much copyrighted stuff. We're going to block you. Not even for a few hours for New Year's Eve to, drink or do whatever and have fun on New Year's Eve. So, as a result, I had to sanitize the episode, take all the copyrighted stuff, air it on New Year's Day, and that's when we had our last episode. So, folks, if you were looking forward to that, I apologize. But I think we still had a good show, especially when we were talking about the stories about Kentucky Fried Chicken and the Hunching Tigers. Thought that was pretty funny, but so
I was kind of hoping for some extra dipping sauce for any chicken whatsoever, but
yeah. Yeah, their barbecue sauce is pretty banging, and some like the Memphis barbecue, and they had like the Nashville hot chicken or whatever that stuff is, but
which would make that Korean lady that's on the Twitch network kind of go crazy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. And again, that poor little girl, her granddaughter, or whoever she's supposed to be in those commercials, man, I don't know. If I was in that restaurant, I'd be tempted to call child services. I feel so sorry for that kid. I don't know, but
I feel for her.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, the week of baseball, hopefully. And by the way, folks, I neglected to mention, I hope you had a happy and safe New Year's Eve celebration. Baseball still went on around the world. Eric will start with the Caribbean leagues, as you've been covering extensively for us. Okay, what's your observations for this past week? I guess we'll start with the Dominican Republic.
Well, even today, okay, you had our playoff games are going on game 3 of each series. Right now, the game that I'm watching is actually in extra innings. Bottom half of the 10th inning, the Australian Orientales and the Gigantes de CPBL are tied at 2 in the bottom of the 10th. The other game, the Aguilas Cibaeñas actually defeated the Toros del Este 3-1. They won their first game, so the Toros are actually ahead in the series game 1 with more games tomorrow. I believe they're at regular times again, but not sure.
All right.
So that's pretty much it in the Dominican leagues, and it's good that at least if one game is on my network cable package, the other one seems to be on YouTube, so I can just flip back and forth.
There you go, multi-channels. So.
And as far as Venezuela goes, their series are a little bit more whacked out, whereas there's one game, and it unfortunately is the game that's actually on my cable package, which is so far out of reach I refuse to switch back and forth. That game has the Lara Cardinales trouncing the Caracas team by a score of 18-4, and that's in the 5th inning.
My goodness.
The other game, one is relatively close. The Tiburones de La Guaira are up 8-2. That's in the 7th. The one that's actually close, the Aguilas, the Caribes de Anzuategui, and the Bravos de Margarita are tied at 2 in the 6th. So that's a close one, which they would switch over on the TV, but I don't think that TVV or DirecTV Venezuela has that capability.
No.
So we're stuck with what we got, but fortunately, the internet site, you can switch off between games and then blast it on through Apple TV totally free.
All right.
So I'm glad that at least Venezuela extended that olive branch.
There you go. Now, which network was it you told me, Eric? I think you mentioned it on the last episode, that you had one country, game from one country, I think it was from Venezuela, and then they switched over to Puerto Rico, and it wound up being the same announcer, basically calling the game remotely from, I'm guessing, from his home. Was that the...
I don't know if it was from his home or from, like a remote studio location. I would think the latter.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like at a CBS Sports type studio like that, but that's the one with the Venezuelan.
Gotcha.
So it's the IVC cable network, IVC network in Venezuela, and it's affiliated with TVV, which is part of the Xfinity cable package down here.
Interesting.
That was kind of cool. The Puerto Rico stuff, which used to be affiliated with the internet TV site, switched over to this TVV thing.
Oh, okay.
This year. Mm-hmm. Ordinarily, you used to be able to watch it through the internet.tv, which down here anyway, you could get through a network called LAS, which is Sports Latino America.
Oh, okay.
That's how that works, but they switch off at will, I guess. Kind of like what Mexico did this year with the different servers and charging me some extra bucks, but hey, I like those guys.
Okay. And that's all that matters. I mean, if you're going to pay for baseball or pay for anything to watch, I mean, better be worthwhile. So.
Yeah, if I have to pay for a few extra tacos to somebody else in the network, hey, I'll go for it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Tacos and baseball sounds pretty good. I don't know, with any league, but especially I guess with them. So that might be what I get next week. I mean, I mentioned to you off the air, well, folks, if you missed last week's episode, I encourage you to watch it because we had a really funny story about how Kentucky Fried Chicken was not only popular in Japan in Christmas time, but there were many fans of the Hanshin Tigers that actually blamed Kentucky Fried Chicken for cursing them for several years. Really hilarious stuff, and partially as a joke, and partially I was just hungry and a fat ass anyway. I went and got some Kentucky Fried Chicken for dinner, just shortly before we started recording. So they are not sponsoring us yet, Colonel. You want to send us some money, or at least send us some chicken, or send Eric some dipping sauce, like he just mentioned. We'll start off with that and take it from there, I guess. But
see, what would be even worse is if we go to a Kentucky Fried Chicken in the States and mention the Hanshin Tigers as kind of like doing little mini cars, and everybody will look at us like we have 3 heads.
Right. First of all, they'll be like, what's a Hanshin? Tigers? What, you mean the Detroit Tigers? You mean Clemson? No. But.
And we've got a video review in the Dominican. Oh, God, love it.
Mm-hmm. If I ever take that Japan ball trip, Eric, what I might even do is I might even buy like some Hanshin Tigers gear and pose with one of those Colonel Sanders statues in Japan, and I don't know. Probably people either laugh or they'll think, they'll be like, screw you guys, why are you jinxing our team even more? But.
No, I was actually thinking if we ever did go to a Hanshin Tigers game, instead of bringing like a team ball to get autographed, you bring like a bucket of chicken and have them sign the bucket.
Oh God! Yeah, get the whole team to sign the bucket. That'd be funny as hell. But yeah, or I wonder. I wouldn't be surprised if like opponents of the Tigers. Sorry, my cat decided to tip over the laptop as we were speaking. It's a bad kitty. No, but anyway. No, they had. I was going to say I'm surprised opponents of Hanshin hadn't tried to taunt the Tigers by, like, I don't know, holding up Kentucky Fried Chicken buckets or dressing like Colonel Sanders or something like that. I don't know. I could see teams doing that, but.
Hey, in these days, I wouldn't put anything past anybody.
No. I mean, the only thing that'd be crazier is if they not only have, like, continue the curse with Kentucky Fried Chicken, but if they had one of those 2001 Space Oddity monoliths popping up there, too. I don't know. That'd be funny as hell. But anyway. All right. We're going off the rails, as usual, but it's my fault. Sorry, folks. But.
No, what would be even more off the rails is giving a free plug to 2001 Odyssey over in Tampa, which just happens to be a place with women of the evening.
Oh, for real? Okay. Hey, you know what? We'll take their money, too. And, we'll give it back in buying champagne, I guess, too. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you have connections set up with a lap dance or something. You don't know. But anyway.
There were girls that would work there for years, and like I would go and actually hit a few Yankee spring training games. So I'd go in there, and the same people would be working there for like years and years.
Jesus.
So it's a cool thing.
Yeah, that is a cool thing. What's not a cool thing is I'm watching the ABL game and there's a commercial for Car Shield with Chris Berman. And I don't know, I'm guessing that's an ad that YouTube put in there and not the ABL, but I could be wrong. But yeah. As long as he doesn't yell back, mate, or something stupid like that, I wouldn't put it past him. But But
now I'm actually looking for my Mexico thing because that's the only Caribbean league that we haven't covered yet. Well, main one anyway.
right.
So my internet, believe it or not, my internet's going wacko. Usually it's yours that's the problem.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, let me go to scoreboard now. Let me ask you this, Eric. It looks like from what I saw, it looks like Dominican Republic and I think Colombia is in something what they call the winter stage, and then Venezuela, they're into their playoffs. Are they setting up for the Caribbean Series or Caribbean Cup, whatever they call that there, or?
Well, the Caribbean Series is going to be in Mazatlan, Mexico.
Okay.
And the Gigantes do Chivas just won on a walkout. So that's 3-2 over there, which means I can switch over to the other. Whoa! My God, that was a horrible relay throw.
Oh, jeez, it was.
But the Gigantes won this game 3-2 in the bottom of the 10th. So they are, I think that's 2-1 in favor of the Estrellas in that series also.
Okay.
And as far as Mexico goes, both series are going a little crazy. So as soon as I get to that, we can fill up time between that. There's a lot of other leagues going on. You've got Colombia. You've got a little dinky league in Guatemala. You got a little dinky league in Mexico, which is further than the regular Mexican Pacific League. It's more a Veracruz league that one or two of us follow when there's basically nothing better to do.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. No psychotic gorilla mascots or anything like that there either, right? So.
Far from it. It's one of those leagues where, only your mother attends.
Okay.
Even if they did allow fans, which I think I did see one game or two, and I don't think there was anybody there out of pure embarrassment.
Oh.
And no cutout either. I don't think they were smart enough to actually figure out what a cutout was.
Gotcha. Well, I don't know. Watch baseball however we can, especially this year, since...
Absolutely. The one league that I did find that they set up a date for, they started setting up dates for, the Mexican Summer League posted their schedule.
Okay.
On our Pacific League Facebook group.
Okay.
As far as I knew, ESPN is actually signed up for 60 games.
No kidding. I hope they learn some things from KBO, and I hope they're more respectful of that league and not condescending of it like they were with some of the games, especially talking about the pitchers and that kind of stuff. Towards the end, I was enjoying ESPN's coverage. They were actually treating it seriously. They were actually following certain players and trying to, the batting titles and all that kind of... they were actually doing it right. At first they were kind of like, oh, God, I wish we could be at MLB games again, They just kept whining incessantly about that, and it just took away from it.
It got to the point, though, where... And this is the case wherever you go. Playoff baseball is always more intense, and you're always more into it because there's something to play for.
Right.
So even the ESPN guys were realizing, hey, this is their playoffs, this is their big deal, so we better, put more of our hearts in it. Mm-hmm.
Especially if you even, granted, games in our time zone, Eric, were, it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. But they still had a sizable audience considering what time that was on. And, they should have realized this. Eduardo Perez, definitely knew that, and, he enjoyed that. He was like saying, okay, tweet from wherever you're watching the game, and he would say, okay, we have Portland, Oregon, we have Baltimore, Maryland, we have Sarasota, Florida, whatever. He would just go on and on and on, and they realized, okay, if people are up this early, we should pay attention to them because they're going to watch, and we're going to want people to advertise and all that kind of stuff. It's just like any other broadcast. So, but
I always like that. But the more you kind of like publicize the game, the more that they'll be watched in the future. That's why I'm hoping they expand on the coverage. I doubt that they're going to, and unfortunately, I don't think people are going to miss it because of the actual times that the games were on live. I actually used to like it when they would show on-floor presentations in the afternoons.
Right.
When they cut that out, that was when you kind of knew that the KBO was being pushed to the back burner, unfortunately.
And also, when they wouldn't show the conclusion of the games, they would be like, okay, we're going to switch it over to ESPN 3 or ESPN News or whatever, so we can have the Keyshawn and whatever stupid show, on instead, where they can just talk about basketball that wasn't even being played for about 4 hours and whatever LeBron James was having for breakfast. It was, that was annoying. But,
and as we have been babbling, now I can finally get Mexico up.
Awesome.
Playoff results, you've got Hermosillo with a 2-0 series lead on the Venados de Mazatlan. Then you've got the series between Jalisco and Obregon tied at 1. Same with Culiacan and Guasave. Monterrey has actually got a 2-0 series lead on the Águilas de Mexicali.
Nice.
So that series could end tomorrow. Tonight is your basic travel day between the teams. Normally you get your Mondays off, but in the playoffs, it's 2 games in one city, then a travel, 2 games in the next, and then a travel, and so on.
Okay.
It just happens to conveniently fall out on a Monday, which is, I guess, kind of cool. Gives the beer vendors a chance to reload on the dollar bottle of Tecate.
Oh, there you go.
Which, beer rules all in Mexico.
Yeah. Well, I know I talk about drinking a lot on this program, but I don't know. Dollar beer, even, and Tecate isn't bad when it's cold. I wouldn't mind that. Why not? So that's kind of fun to do.
Well, this one is better than Corona.
Yeah, well, better than a lot of Corona, but yeah. Yeah. But, yeah.
So,
speaking of... I'm sorry?
You got any weird stories for me?
Any weird what?
Any weird stories for me? Because I'm trying to, dig up some stuff.
Well, let's take a quick break. I do have some news. I have some news about our friends down in Australia, but also some good news about leagues that we originally began covering in the early stages of this program. We'll talk about that in a little bit. You're listening to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RTC Multimedia. We'll be right back. Alright folks, welcome back to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RTC Multimedia. Rick Crabb with Eric Marin back. And once you know it, Eric, right as I said that, now my internet's decided to take turns. It's like our internets are scheming against us, and it's messed up. But
let's see, who got mad at who? Was it Xfinity getting mad at your cable or what?
Well, it could be that. I'm not going to mention who my internet provider is, but it's special in not necessarily a good way. I don't know. I'll blame Kentucky Fried Chicken. Go Hunting Tigers anyway. But no. But okay. So what I wanted to mention too, as far as with the ABL, we'll talk about those guys a little bit. The game that they're having today features a team playing their first game of the season after almost 2 weeks in, the Adeline Giants, and they are visiting the Brisbane Bandits. And as we turn that, let me switch to that game real quick, see what the score is. And of course, they're not showing the score; they're showing the middle relief pitchers' stats. Okay, Adelaide is leading Brisbane 3-1, and looks like the top of the third. But no, they've had some issues with COVID again last week, Eric. It looks like they had the game that we wanted to play on watch along on New Year's Eve between the Perth Heat and Melbourne. They played, and then I think there was a rain out after that. And then, because of the COVID regulations due to the outbreak in South Wales and the borders and their provincial governments and all that nonsense, Perth had to leave Melbourne, and they were replaced with the Canberra Cavalry. And they played a couple of games against Melbourne. Then I saw from the ABL themselves, they had an announcement as far as, they were talking about doing this for a few weeks, Eric, but they had an announcement as far as they have a 3-team bubble, I should say, rather. Looks like it's at Brisbane, where they have Brisbane, Adelaide, and Adelaide are the two teams that are playing now, and they had a third team, it looks like, yes, the Perth Heat. Okay, the Perth Heat went over to this bubble in Brisbane, so you'll have a doubleheader every day from, looks like January 5th all the way till January the 11th, where you'll have Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth kind of rotating playing against each other. So, and which is kind of interesting, where you're letting some of the teams who had yet to play before today kind of catch up with the standings, and I don't know, it's just a mess down there with the travel. I've never been to Australia. I'm guessing some of these cities, they don't have air travel as developed as, say, Sydney, because from what I've read, a lot of the players from all of the teams, not just Sydney Blue Sox, excuse me, players from the Sydney Blue Sox, they live in the Sydney area. And a lot of teams have been able to field enough players to play games, or they would have to borrow teams from their opponents, or get their future teams to come in and play for them, all kinds of weird stuff. I don't know. Yeah, that's...
They call them town leagues over there.
What's that?
They call them town leagues over there, where they seem to be borrowing players from.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. But I don't know, it's a lot of craziness there, Eric. What's your take on that?
It's kind of like a shirt that I bought today in Walmart.
Oh, no.
It is what it is. The COVID rules over there, and stipulations and guidelines. At one point, Australia was fine and dandy. Then they got a bad rollout on it, where they had to shut the country down. So they're starting to roll back things slowly but surely. And this will happen everywhere where this virus is. If you open things too quickly and not have things gradual, you're going to get burned. And
Sure.
That's probably what happened in Australia with games being restructured, canceled. I have a feeling that the deal that they tried to do with the American Association cable package, I have a feeling that with the amount of games being restructured and so on and so forth, okay, they still have their pay-per package, but then that's why they decided to lift the ban up.
Right.
You really didn't know what games were being played where, and to be honest, I'd be pissed off as a fan if I was watching free stuff and then all of a sudden it gets blacked out by the league or by this other company trying to make a buck.
Right.
I actually was stupid enough to subscribe to the service. The next game was that rainout game against Sydney. All hell broke loose, and then all of a sudden you see the game's back on YouTube again. So I took it upon myself to, based on principle, call up Apple today and say, hey, people are offering these games for free. I want my money back.
Right.
It's not even the money. It's just the principle of the thing which burns me.
Right. And if you're a fan of that league or you wanted to see those games, I can't fault you for that, you know. But the problem was, this was a league that wanted to bill you month per month, and it was based on independent minor league ball here. And you go through like 2 or 3 months without any baseball at all anyway, which is criminal. I mean, I don't know. I can't see doing that, so. But like you said, it is what it is, so.
When I saw that shirt at Walmart today, we kind of had to get it.
All right.
Because with everything else going on in the world, not just with baseball, but with life in general, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You can't control it. You just got to let it roll.
True. Yeah, and getting back to the ABL, though, I mean, with their COVID, I'm getting mixed messages with them, frankly, Eric, because on one hand, I had watched, like I mentioned on a previous episode, I watched some podcasts from the Sydney Blue Sox where they were interviewing American players who were staying quarantined in a hotel room for 2 weeks. And, you know, they were basically, and then when they came over and said once they were allowed to leave, they were surprised to see that no one was wearing masks over there. And then watching some of these games, even though I found out that the stadiums have, like, decreased their capacity, you know, like 25%, 50%, whatever, and they would space some seats out. And I actually did start to see some fans actually wearing masks, and I think, like, some of the Melbourne Aces cheerleaders, I think 1 or 2 of them, I think, were as well. But for the most part, I mean, usually you watch baseball all over, Eric. I mean, and you've seen, and in other sports too. Usually, they'll let the players on the field, you know, proceed as normal, but usually it's like, depending on the league, they'll tell them, okay, once you're in the dugout, you got to put the mask on. Once you're in, and you got to spread out, you know, a little bit on the bench, or sit in the stands, like the Major League Baseball, which I thought was a good idea, letting them do that. But you don't see any of that in Australia. I mean, it didn't seem like any of their fans were wearing masks. None of the players were, even none of the umpires. That was another thing. Usually umpires would be wearing stuff. I mean, the NFL, the referees do it, except when they had to take the mask off to make the call, you know. But it seemed like you're reading about how strict they are as far as not letting players go out of South Wales or into South Wales, whatever the case may be. But then you see the people at these games, it's kind of like, all right, it just looks like a Carolina League game that with Australian accents, you know, nothing's changed. I don't know.
They don't mask in Nicaragua either, you know, in those games. So you don't know whether there's that big of a deal as far as the pandemic goes. And I've always had ambivalent feelings about the mask thing. You know, I would kind of want a mask mandate. I can see the the point where people say we want our freedom.
Right.
But freedom, though, comes with, I don't know, common sense.
Common sense and just being considerate of other people. I mean, it's like when I order food or whatever, I mean, even if I'm driving outside, I normally don't drive with my mask on, but if I go through a drive-through, I will actually put it on when I'm interacting with the restaurant workers. Just out of respect for them, because, I mean, they had to work through that all day. And just to protect them, too. And I have no problem doing that, especially in these stores. And I think a lot of governments have, like, double standards with this, where it's like, you can't have 10 people in a bar or restaurant, yet if you're going to buy the food at a supermarket, I mean, it's wall-to-wall people, especially recently with the holiday weekends. Or if you go to Walmart, or if you go to a Home Depot or a Lowe's or something like that to buy stuff, and it's a mixed message, I mean, but I think the whole thing about, like, I'm not wearing a mask, it's my freedom, and it's a way of control. No, it's not. It's no more control when it's snowing and they tell you to, put on snow tires or stay home if you can't drive your damn car in the snow or the ice. I mean, but on the other hand, though, I think media coverage, I'm not going to say that the pandemic is a hoax. I mean, some people have suffered from it and have died, but a lot of people have suffered from, driving in the snow and all, too. But that doesn't stop local media from saying, when there's 3 flakes of snow on the ground, if you don't have to go anywhere, stay home and watch our commercials. I mean, stay tuned to our exclusive news coverage. That's really what that's all about. But, yeah, I think that's the thing with the pandemic, too. I mean, you have to wonder, shutting down several industries, several businesses, when the most I've seen, at least in Maryland, is maybe like 7% of the, state having this, or testing positive for it. I mean, it's 93% that aren't. I mean, I don't know where you went to school, Eric. If I had every test with 93, I would, I'd probably make the damn honor roll, but
I'd be happier than thinking, what, if I was getting 93s on everything.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean,
you know what? This whole thing, what bothers me about the whole thing is you close down stadiums, you close down a whole bunch of stuff, you close down our country's borders, so we're basically stuck in our own country, so what else are you going to do?
Right.
To me, now that the vaccine is sort of out, and I say sort of because even though it's out, it's very, very selective as far as the rollout. I'm not going to get into the whole politics of it because, that's a whole different podcast. We're supposed to be on sports, but you know what? I just want to be able to travel and do my stuff again.
I do too, and
even if it is just certain limitations.
Yeah, I do too, and what I don't have an issue with as far as that goes is who's getting it first. I mean, I have friends who work in a couple of hospitals at Johns Hopkins and Mercy Hospital here that have received the vaccine because they are within the first responder network, even though, quite frankly, what some of them do in the hospitals, I don't know if it's not really part of the emergency room, it's other procedures, but still, I'd rather see them get it than, I don't know, just somebody, but eventually I'd like to see us all get it, and in the same token, though, I want to make sure that it is safe and not just something that they're rushing through. I do want the FDA to do some tests on it to make sure it doesn't turn us into chombos, you know what I mean? So, but,
Well, that would be interesting, though, with hair growing in certain places.
Yeah, I guess it depends what parts of the body. There are others that I could do with that, but that's okay.
Well, certain body parts stay on women and not, go cross over.
Oh, boy. Okay. All right. Off the rails again. All right. Well, I have some other news, though, and this is positive news, especially for you and me. And as much as we like talking about the ABL and the Caribbean leagues, quite frankly, this show would not exist if you and I didn't have a common interest in Asian baseball. And from our Baseball Pacific group, a regular viewer of the show, Robert Kiyoshi Shadlow, he announced the 2021 pending opening days for the CPBL, the NPB, and the KBO. So mark your calendars, folks. Right now, COVID and weather events permitting, March 13th will be the opening day for the CPBL. March 26th, the proposed opening date for the Nippon Professional Baseball League in Japan. And April 3rd, our friends in the KBO get to start some action. So, good luck to all three of those leagues. I hope they do, and I'm looking forward to watching regular season games with all of them. I know you have for years, but this will be my first time, My first taste of it has been abbreviated, no fans in the stands, that kind of thing for KBO and all that. But you've been to Taiwan, you've watched their games online, and as well as the Japanese and the Koreans and other countries, which is what this show is all about. And hopefully they'll be marching a little closer to normal. So.
And it's good that the KBO is at least doing some more signings. I noticed, Roberto Ramos is returning to the Twins. The Hanwha Eagles extended their coaching staff as their new hitting coach is Johnny Washington. We might have mentioned that one time.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago I think we mentioned that. But that's still it's good for Hanwha there and for their fan base. They're trying to improve. I mean, the only direction they can go is up anyway. But good for them.
The KT Winners now have Mel Rojas Jr.'s replacement, although not as powerful, in former Yankee and former Dominican player Zoilo Almonte. Haven't seen him in years. So that could be a diamond in the rough, because Almonte was an outstanding prospect with the Yankees that never panned out, unfortunately.
Okay.
So this could be Rojas 2021. Because pretty much Rojas was kind of obscure in the Padres or in the Pirates organization.
Right.
Then all of a sudden comes to the KBO and does gangbusters to the point where he'll more or less defect and go to Japan this year to try and get a little more exposure, to try and get back to the holy grail of MLB.
Right. And it sounds similar to Ramos. I mean, he was kind of floundering in the Colorado Rockies organization. Then when he came to Seoul and LG, bam, he started tearing the cover off the ball there. So hopefully, I'm glad that the Twins kept him. I would rather, if he would, I'd like to see him stay with that team, especially, the goodwill I'm sure he's built with a lot of the fans, and, I don't know, maybe help the Twins advance a little farther in the KBO playoffs, but...
Well, I think it's kind of funny, though. Okay, remember last week we were mentioning that Hassan Kim got signed by San Diego?
Mm-hmm.
Your even bigger player who is represented by the king of agents, as he likes to call himself, Scott Boras.
Uh-huh.
Sungwon Na is not even getting sniffed. And there's only about, I believe his posting ends on Friday of this week, Friday or Saturday. So teams have got to basically shit or get off the pot as far as tendering this guy an offer.
Right.
And yeah, I think, guy that's got Boris as his agent. Boris has got some egg on his face here because, you're trying to market this guy. He's not even getting sniffed by anybody. I mean, I don't know. I mean, MLB's loss is the Dino's gain, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe Eugene Yang will welcome him back with open arms as well as all the rest of the guys. But that's it does kind of seem a shame that now got all the publicity coming out of there. He's getting no love.
Right, and the fact that he was getting that extra exposure from the worldwide covers from the so-called worldwide leader of sports, he was getting that exposure, and now it's like when it's possible that they won't be covering them next year, and their exposure will be much more limited, but I don't know. That is surprising, though. I mean,
it's pissing me off, too, because I actually spent money to get a gamer jersey out of NC through the Lacardian people.
Right. Yeah, I probably, I'm going to probably wait until after my Perth Heat gear comes in, but I'll probably get it. I was thinking of getting some Dinos gear, too. I almost went to their website to get the Korean Series gear, but it was like, Google Translate only worked so well, and I couldn't, they were like asking me, I'm not sure if they were asking me for a size or a number or what, and I couldn't get past that, when I was trying to order something from them, so.
They're probably asking for your driver's license and social security number, so.
Yeah. Rank, file, and serial number, right? Yeah. But,
Name, rank, serial number, mother's maiden name, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. And by the way, I never got a chance to go. I've just been busy with the holidays and with other things. I wanted to go to my favorite Korean liquor store and see if they could get any of that NC Dinos soju, but I never got a chance to go over there. Maybe I'll try this weekend, but
I would just wonder if maybe going on Amazon and seeing where it's available. Ever think of that one?
I could try that. I have bought some KBO stuff from Amazon, and they actually have a decent selection of the Dinos. Usually, it's mostly I think the teams that they have the most stuff on are them, the Doosan Bears. I've seen a few things for Twins and Hanwha. The Wiz. I mean, usually most of the things you get from Amazon are just basically the team hats, maybe some team jerseys or stuff, and then the rest of it is kind of just the knockoff stuff you get for $10 or $12, which I bought some of them too. But yeah, so, but Amazon's usually pretty good with that stuff, and of course, about Amazon, they're quick. I mean, they'll actually get the stuff from Korea and still get it to you within a week, unlike our U.S. Postal Service, where I ordered gear from the Perth Heat. The Perth Heat sent me an email today saying they sent the order out December 11th. They said just keep tracking, so I'm not sure if it's the Australian Postal Service. I think it's more our Postal Service because from what I've heard, they had a backlog of stuff during the holidays, which is always fun where they're telling you to stay home and shop from home and post office, or backlogging that stuff. I mean, they can't blame the heavy JCPenney's catalogs anymore, folks. I mean, come on.
I can find blaming anybody and anything, so I'll throw anybody under the bus at any given cost. I don't care.
There you go. But anyway, I wanted to mention about the opening days of those leagues. Some good news. I mean, I'm starting to sound like myself on the other show that I have on the network, a new show it's literally called Eric the Grumpy Old Man Wrestling Podcast, where me and another friend, we analyze stuff in the world of professional wrestling, and we always had a running joke between us. We compared ourselves to the characters in the movie Grumpy Old Men, like Matt Allen Lemon. good morning, dickhead, hello, putz, that kind of stuff. And we actually kind of do that on the show. I mean, even if you don't like wrestling, folks, you might want to check that out just to get some laughs. I mean, we just...
Right, that actually sounds like my development here in Florida, where it's a 55 and over community, and, most of the people are kind of like Matt Allen Lemonish.
Oh, gosh. Are they, trying to, work with Kramer and sell, raincoats before the moths eat them and all that, or what?
I wouldn't put it past me, but,
Yeah.
Ooh, this game looks like it ended in a walk-off. The Caribes de Anzuategui actually defeated Bravos 3-2.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So that was the only close game in Venezuela.
Mm.
So now I've got Australia all to myself. Isn't that nice?
There we go. By the way, I don't know if you saw my Facebook comment. I laughed when, I think it was at, it might have been one of the Melbourne games, where, as folks, I don't know how much ABL you have seen. If you've ever seen minor league baseball in the United States, they market their games very similar, where they have a lot of the same kind of games, where they have, the kids, have the races where they put on the uniforms and all that other crazy stuff. Well, one game, they actually had a promotion where a runner was at bat, and the PA announcer said, all right, fans, we're going to, if this batter strikes out, everyone in the stadium will get free popcorn. And once you know it, what does this batter do? He hits a 3-run home run.
Yeah. I see the minor league games all the time. And the funny part about it is, the guy is supposed to strike out, and you hear the chants of the chants with 2 strikes of chicken, or pancakes. And, it's more or less justifiable that the guy on the very next pitch hits the 3-run homer and is like, damn, we're all going to starve for another at bat. Okay.
Sure, you're egging them on, it's exactly. Well, it's I used to go to Washington Capitals games. They did the same thing, where they had a promotion where either, if they scored 6 goals or more, I forget what the sponsor was, but they got a coupon for ice cream. And if they did that or shut out the opposition, they would give certificates to a local pizza restaurant chain. And sure enough, I went to a game against the New Jersey Devils, and Capitals wound up winning by a shutout. But the last 2 minutes of the game, all you kept hearing was pizza, pizza. They might not even been watching the damn game, Eric. But they just wanted, to get a coupon for pizza the next day. I mean, it was funny, but...
Yeah, we're a bunch of mooches. I mean, Papa John's for years, was doing the 30% off or 50% off, depending on which team scored whatever amount of runs.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden that got taken away across the board, with
right.
all their little race problems. Right? Well, especially during a Ranger game, when during the hockey games we used to pray for the 3rd goal just so we can get half off the pizza the next day.
There you go. Well, I remember when the Baltimore Ravens first came here, they had a thing where it was something, if the defense scored a touchdown, or it was either they scored a touchdown or they allowed a certain amount of points, you'd get free something. It was a free pizza. It was with Pizza Hut. It was a free pizza or something like that. Well, the first 2 years the Baltimore Ravens were here, they had atrocious defense, but then they started to get good. Really good at defense. And it got to the point where Pizza Hut was like, well, we're going to change this promotion just a little bit next season. So that's what they wound up doing. But
giving out too much crap, that's what it was.
Exactly, yeah.
Whoa. That was a good looking over. Cornelius Randolph.
Wow.
This one for Aid. You're probably watching the game too. Because I'm a nice little poke by this kid, and I've never heard of him either. So
right. Looks like he did what to like almost like the left center over that little tiny scoreboard over the wall. Like,
yeah, it was definitely opposite field, and if you notice, as they will probably try to pan to it again, it looked like right to the right of it. It's like one of those signs that you see on the side of a road, saying right lane closed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Kind of funny.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you kind of expect to see, that's where you see kind of like the silver alerts or stuff like that when you're driving on 95, I guess. But
yeah, either that or your phones go crazy.
Yeah.
Amber alert, 85-year-old man stuck in a tree somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, every once in a while you hear a story of somebody hacking into one of them and saying, be careful, zombie attack or something crazy like that, too.
Oh, sure. Zombie apocalypse, remember one of the insurance commercials. You're protected against everything except for...
Yeah, there you go. Mayhem like me. Mm. Yeah. But,
I like Justin Erasmus. He's a good pitcher.
Yeah.
Never made major leagues, but he's a good dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like it's a decent ball game actually here. So I mean, it's good for them. Especially, I'll give them props, especially since I think this is Adelaide's first game. So
Yeah, and I think this is actually Brisbane's first game that doesn't have futures on it.
Right, and is it their first? I don't know if it's their first home game. It might be their first home game too. So
that's very possible. Which means if it is their first home game, I have to get a hold of my buddy Ricky Lowe to see if he can snatch me some stuff.
Right, there you go. They do have some sweet gear. Color-wise, it kind of, and logo-wise, it kind of look like the Brewers. Although their hat, it looks like a Boston Red Sox hat with Milwaukee Brewers color. So it's kind of weird. It's like a B that starts from the yellow at the top and then fades into blue, but it's that same style of ball.
I would like it better when they had the bandit type mask thing on the cap.
I like that too. I saw some of the older caps that had that and some of like the T-shirts and stuff. I like that logo a lot actually, but
right, which kind of I think the Quad City River Bandits more or less stole that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's copyright infringement or what.
A lot of teams have used that though. I think also the XFL, the Dallas Renegades had a logo similar to that, where they had the cowboy hat and the bandana over their face, and then
right.
Yeah, and in fact, sorry.
What I like in some of these games, you mentioned it before about the kiddos. Basically, the seventh inning stretch, they get to run across from left field to right field.
Right.
Kind of like their dash.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Get those kids to wear them out after they ate all that cotton candy. I guess they eat that at Australia. It looks like they eat similar things to what we do at ball games, but...
No, the best part about it is, in all the Perth games, I know Tim Kennelly's son is like a regular there.
Mm-hmm.
So the kid, who I think he's, 9, 10, maybe a little older,
mm-hmm.
He'll actually, start to run on the field with the rest of the kids. Father would be out in either center or right field, and he'd be like, "Hey, Dad."
Yeah.
It's like, Dustin Beggs is now the new Adelaide pitcher. Okay, don't know you either.
No.
Ooh, this guy looks like Charlie Blackmon, which is really funny. But
Yeah, he does kind of, now to mention it. Yeah. One thing I'm envious of kids, though, especially with these minor league games, I haven't seen them do it with the Australian games, but the minor league games here is where they have the national anthem and they let, like a little league team, they'll let each kid stand next to an actual player, for the national anthem. That's really cool. I know when I was in little league, I would have.
They did do it, obviously pre-COVID.
Yeah.
the best moment for a national anthem, and you can even look this up, and we might do a video, or if you ever want to do like a video in between a thing. A kid goes to do the national anthem in Australia. He does the entire national anthem with the hiccups.
Oh my gosh. Poor kid.
The kid battled through it and finished the whole thing and got a standing ovation, even though you could obviously hear him. The kid was, definitely embarrassed by the fact that he had the hiccups and he couldn't get rid of it.
Oh, no.
But he made it through the whole thing, and everybody was just, so appreciative of him battling the hiccup. They gave him a standing O. I mean, could you imagine in America that doing that?
Right. Well, I think not too far from you, I think it was it a New Jersey, Carl Owens, the Olympic runner. He tried to sing the national anthem and his voice went out. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I don't remember that one, but I do remember this kid. I was watching the game or a replay of the game, from the previous night because it was one of those 3 o'clock in the morning starts.
Right.
And this kid is battling hiccups, and he was a cute kid too. He's probably about 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah.
You should Google it sometime.
Yeah. I'll, as soon as we finish recording, I'm going to look that up for sure. Yeah. That might even wind up being. That might be our new NC Dino cheerleaders. I mean, we have Chapo at the beginning, but I'm looking for something new to put at the end of the show. But that might be it right there.
There you go.
Or maybe just put it at the beginning of our ABL segments too. Who knows? But.
So good to me.
All right. Well, anyway, Eric, do you have any other observations about any of the leagues? Any other hot stove news that you know about, or?
No. Taiwan's pretty much been quiet. I think let's see, the last big thing that I mentioned, or that I thought I saw anyway, was the Dragons team is pretty much set up with any of the free agents and or dispersal draft picks that they've had.
Okay.
Shen-Ming Wong, the pitching coach for the Brother Elephants, which is actually good for me because when I'm able to go back there and stay with my buddy Daniel, Taichung is basically the home of the Elephants, which would mean that I'd be seeing Wong every frickin' day.
Nice.
So it would be like Taiwan Yankee Stadium all over again.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Oh, that reminds me. You've been watching the. Now, what's the tournament in Taiwan where it's the high school or youth tournament or something like that? I know you mentioned that on a few times.
There's a bunch of tournaments that are going on even now through because these kids, and I don't know how they do it, but they go all year round. There's games even going on right now. I'm trying to remember which tournament this is. And the funny part about these tournaments, they're all set up in the description with the prefix either 108 or 109. And I remember getting the story from somebody, but I forget what the actual prefix means. I think 108 is high school and 109 is junior high, or maybe the other way around.
Okay.
This one team that's playing now, they may be from Taiwan, but they've got the NC Dinos D on their helmets.
Interesting.
They're from a high school, I think it's called, in Kaohsiung, called Kupao.
Okay.
But their helmets are literally the NC Dinos D on the helmet.
Interesting. Well, I mean, you see high schools and all do that too, I guess. They borrow a lot of logos from like big college teams or pro teams or whatever. And I mean, I guess because it's hard, I guess to design logos, it's cheaper just to call your school the Patriots and just, I don't know, take the Patriots logo and paint it a different color or something. I don't know, but...
Yeah, it's actually cool. This game is actually 1-1 in the top of the seventh. The Taiwanese kid from Kupa just did a leadoff double. I just switch around from country to country, especially when a game gets bored.
Right.
Bring, like that Australia game, so I decided to flip around just to see what else is up.
All right.
Everything's cool. It's better to look at sports than to look at what's going on in the rest of the world.
I couldn't agree with you more there. Yeah, definitely. Especially baseball, because, I mean, even though, I mean, you're seeing Australia and these other leagues in warmer weather, and it's kind of like, yeah, I'd like to get back to this. I'd like to sit on a nice hot day and watch some ball and, get a little suntan and whatever you want to do in the summertime. So, I don't know.
And actually, I sort of been corrected in Nicaragua, where there's a lot of fans in the stands in this game tonight that I just switched to, but everybody seems to be masked up, even though they're not, socially distant.
Right.
And it's 3-2 Tigres over Leon in the sixth inning. It's another one of those 14 leagues, but it's a round-robin type of thing, so all 4 teams are playing in it anyway.
Okay. So, like Colombia?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The only problem with this league versus Colombia, in this league, I know absolutely nobody.
Right.
At least in Colombia, there's a sprinkling of guys that I may know, like Harold Ramirez, who's still with the Marlins, Donovan Solano, who was a Yankee at one point, but spent most of his time either with the Marlins or other clubs.
Mm-hmm.
So at least I'll know a few guys from Colombia, but Nicaragua and some of these other leagues, I know absolutely nobody. So to me, they're just ordinary stick figures with nice uniforms.
It's like Seinfeld, you're cheering for the laundry. But
pretty much.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point about that, Eric, because that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about, because I know you followed a lot of more international ball than I have, and you're fluent in Spanish, and you probably picked up some Chinese in your time in Taiwan as well. That's one thing when I watch, as much as I pan on ESPN on this program with KBO, I really enjoy the fact that they actually have English language announcers in the sense, they can actually talk about certain players. You can hear the player's name, see it spelled out in our letters as opposed to Korean or Japanese or whatever, which no slight on them whatsoever. It's just I don't speak your language. That's ignorance on my part. You can blame me on that. But, I mean, there's, even with watching, the KBO on Twitch, if it's not a team that I already know the players' names or whatever, I mean, it's kind of hard to follow. And that's the issue I have sometimes with watching Colombia or Mexico, I mean, or any of the non-English speaking leagues, where sometimes, depending on the league, some have a budget where they'll actually show the batter's name 2 for 3, hitting 324 or whatever. And others, you just have to strictly depend on the audio. And if you don't understand the audio, it's like, all right, well, you might as well play some music in the background because you're not going to understand the audio anyhow. Although in Colombia, though, as I mentioned a couple episodes ago, I mean, sometimes that's part of the enjoyment too. So, but that's why I was pinning a lot on this ABL because it was an English-speaking league, and seems like these teams do have good relationships with minor league systems of the major league teams. So it's like you'll hear these people saying, okay, this guy's a Phillies prospect, this guy he's in the Dodger system, he's with the Tiger, they'll mention American teams. And I guess they hold American baseball in high regard, kind of like if you watch an MLS broadcast, I guess they would hold Premier League or, I don't know, or Bundesliga in high regard or something like that. But I don't know. It's why I'm trying to get into these teams and these leagues, and I'm having fun watching the ball. And like I said, I think I'll have even more when things go back to normal. You get to see the different crowd reactions and interactions, because right now you don't see that as much if you do see it at all. For pretty much, it's like, other than the language, it just looks like empty stadium baseball in a lot of places, so.
Well, that's why, when I mentioned last week, and actually more of it this week, with last week's clinic that they had with Xavier Edwards and McKenzie and a whole bunch of high draft picks from the Florida area. The more that there's interaction returning to fans, even if it's in a clinic setup, as players seem to be getting safer with fans interaction-wise, that's when you'll create more of a buzz with the game again.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do.
There is obviously going to be a little bit of a disconnect, based on what happened this past year.
Right.
But the quicker we can get back to interaction, autograph signing, BSing with the players, so on and so forth, that's what will grow the game back.
Right. I mean, that thing you mentioned last episode, that little clinic with the Tampa Bay players, that sounded like something really cool as far as interacting with the kids especially, so.
Yeah, Tristan's actually doing another clinic at another high school a little bit north of me instead of south. I don't know if he's having different people there than Edwards did, that's going to be working with him, or if it might be the same bunch of guys. I don't know.
Right.
But it's good that you're giving back. You feel a little safer giving back to the kids, and hopefully getting back to normalcy the more the vaccine rolls out.
No doubt. There's a lot of entertainment industries too. Not just that. I saw a story on the news today about how some Hollywood movie studios are cutting back on production because of this virus. And in your area, the Broadway industry there, it's been absolutely destroyed. I hope for the sake of those folks, they get back into it, but it's a changing world. It's a shame. But
it's horrible, but, if we can, all we have to do is get past it, and, then we take it from there.
Right.
And the more that we're, I can't even think of the word, but the more we're confident of moving past it, the better off we'll be.
Yeah, I agree there. I definitely agree there. The only thing I'm worried about, though, Eric, is some of these governments actually getting used to some of these restrictions and be like, you know what, maybe we could keep some of these from here on. And then, I don't know, there's always part of me that worries about that, but I hope to be wrong on that, and if for nothing else, there's too much money to be had, you know what I mean? I can't see them doing that, but...
Well, that's the whole thing. It's all money driven. In retrospect, had they not shut down everything during the Stop the Spread routine,
right,
I think there's a certain part of me that says if you didn't shut down anything at the beginning and, close down businesses and stuff like that, there wouldn't be this economic struggle that we're going into now, even though the markets are, back the way they were and up a little more and yada, yada, yada.
And fortunately, in some ways, unfortunately, a lot of others, there are companies that are making money off of this. You know, sad to say. I mean, there are some. I think the ones that are getting hit hardest are the small businesses, bar and restaurants, and that kind of thing. But the pharmaceuticals. I mean, they are probably having record profits for this. And if they're able to save lives with it, good for them. But, you know, if it's going to be like chemotherapy where it's like, yeah, it's available, but you have to have $100,000 first, you know, then that's no good, you know.
Right.
Okay.
And that's going to be the whole problem with this thing.
Right.
Where even though there's a rollout of the vaccine, it's a hell of a lot less than everybody said that it was going to be.
Right.
And you can blame whoever else, you know, whoever you want on it, but it's all about money.
Yeah, exactly. All right. On that note, folks, we're going to conclude this episode of RGC Multimedia Headline News. Pro Baseball World Tour. Thanks again for listening to us. Hope you're enjoying the baseball wherever you are, whichever country. And as Eric has pointed out through this and many episodes, there's a lot of free baseball to be had throughout the world. So go out and watch it, you know. And stay home and watch it after all this COVID talk. But you know what I mean. It's
So am I Wolf Blitzer and you're Jake Tapper, or how do we work this?
I would say probably you'd be Wolf Blitzer because you're more traveled and you're probably more informed. And Jake Tapper, I think, is more of a shit star. But you know, that would be more my area of expertise or lack thereof. But
Works for me.
Okay. All right. Well, on behalf of Wolf Aaron Back, this is Rick Crabb. Thanks again for joining us. We'll talk to you next week.
Adios, amigos.